Yeah.
Good morning, viewers. Myself, Grishma, welcoming you all to the FB Live session of Epic Hospital, an ultra modern multi speciality state of the art hospital in the heart of Ahmedabad. Epic Hospital is a leading hospital with India's leading medical practitioners, led by founder director cardiac surgeon Dr. Anil Jain, working tirelessly with one motto, that is care with compassion. Dear viewers, today is World's Parkinson's Disease Day. So today we will be discussing about on myths and facts about Parkinson's disease by Dr. Jitendra Singh. Dr. Jitendra Singh is consultant neurophysician who has done his MD medicine from KEM School of Post Graduation. He did his Diplomat of National Board Neurology from Choitharam Hospital and Research Center, Madhya Pradesh. So viewers, before Dr. Singh and me start the discussion, we would request you all to post your doubts and questions in the comment section below. We will try and answer them too. Welcome sir to our FB live session. Thank you so much for joining us.
Sure, Vishwan. Thank you so much. Today is the World Parkinson's Day, and the World Parkinson's Day is celebrated every year on 11th April because of the birthday of Dr. James Parkin, who coined the term Parkinson's disease. And this year, the theme of Parkinson's Day and the Parkinson's year is to know about Parkinson's. So, as a neurologist and special interest in movement disorders, our job and my job is to make more and more people aware of this disease, that this is treatable, it is controllable, and we can make the life of the people suffering from Parkinson's more joyful and useful for the society and for the country.
Yeah, that's great, doctor. So actually, people have a lot of myths and facts about Parkinson's. So slowly and gradually, we'll ask you all the queries related to the general people. So let's start the discussion, doctor.
Yes.
So my first question would be, what is Parkinson's disease and how this disease is caused?
Parkinson's disease is one of the degenerative disabling disease of nervous system. In this disease, usually it starts at an age group, age more than 45 years, not commonly, and it is peaking towards the 60 age group. So this is a disease affecting the elderly population, and it is usually very rarely seen below 45 years. But yes, nowadays we are seeing patients with young onset Parkinson's disease also. In Parkinson's disease, the patients usually present to us with a symptom triad, which is classically classified as tremors. Then there is a slowness, which is also known as bradykinesia. Slowness means slowness of most of the activities of their daily routine. And thirdly is the rigidity. Rigidity means the muscle joints, they become quite stiff. And along with that, there are also various other symptoms with which the patient can present to us.
Okay, so are there any stages of Parkinson's disease, doctor? And if yes, then what are the stages of this disease?
Usually, the Parkinson's disease, as a doctor, we classify into 5 stages, and it was classified by a group of scientists named by Hoyne and Yahr. So, Hoyne and Yahr classification is used for clinical help and to decide the treatment modality and what next to the prognosis of the patient. Prognosis means how long the patient is going to be very well. So, first stage is in which there is only the onset of tremors, that is fine tremors, in which it doesn't disable the patient and the patient is able to perform all his routine activities with very minimal problems. Stage 2 is in which the patient has a unilateral symptoms, that the symptoms are towards one side of the body, that is the tremors, slowness, the rigidity would be towards one side of the body. Then in stage 2 there is another stage which is known as 2.5, in which the symptoms become more disabled but they don't cross the midline. In stage 3 it is the symptoms which are more generalized. Generalized means involving the face also. The face becomes like a mask, expressionless face. The voice becomes slow, the tremors start, the movements also become very slow, and along with that the significance is the walk also becomes affected. Stage 4 is the more disabling stage, in which the symptoms are more generalized and the patient may need help for most of his or her routine activities. And stage 5 is the stage of bedridden stage.
Oh, okay. सो डॉक्टर, हर एक डिजीज में कोई ना कोई साइंस एंड सिम्टम्स रहते हैं, तो व्हाट आर पर्टिकुलर सिम्टम्स फॉर दिस पार्किंसंस डिजीज?
The main symptoms of Parkinson's disease are usually it is most commonly we see tremors. The tremors in Parkinson's disease are rest tremors. What I mean by rest tremors is that the patients develop these tremors while resting condition, and these tremors become less in frequency and severity when they start doing some activity. The usually tremors are pin rolling tremors, like this, and the tremors are starting from the one side of the body and then progressing to involve the full unilateral and then crossing the midline towards the other side of the body also. So tremors is one symptom. Second is slowness of activities, that the patient becomes slow. Slow means that most of his activities, suppose like bathing, eating, swallowing, everything becomes slow. Most of his routine activities. That is the time taken to complete the activities becomes longer. Third is rigidity. Rigidity means it's a clinical examination which we do as a neurologist, but the patient's body becomes stiff. This is a free movement, but in Parkinson this becomes like rigid. Fourth is the masked face. The patient's face becomes expressionless. There would be very less expressions. The patient would have a stare look. The smile, the grimace, the anger would be less expressive. So we say it is a masked face of the patient. Along with that, there would be a slow monotonous voice. Both the speech volume, the speech quality, as well as the pronunciation, that is the articulation of the speech is affected. And this may be the first presenting symptoms in about 20% of patients. Along with that, the walk. The most of the patients come to us with a very slow baby-like walking, slow, short, shuffling gait. Also, the symptoms in this would be initially would be imbalance, would be memory impairment, and on longer terms, they may develop bladder and bowel dysfunction also.
Oh, okay. So basically, viewers, you can note down these symptoms, and if anyone faces such kind of symptoms, you can definitely consult the doctor immediately. Now, doctor, my next question is this disease hereditary?
This is the most common asked question to all the neurologists in the world, that is this disease hereditary? Yes, it is a genetically transmitted disease by a gene known as Parkin genes, which has several genes subgroups also. But this hereditary is seen only in 20 to 30% of patients. In rest, 70% of patients it is not hereditary. Suppose if my father is suffering from Parkinson's, so my probability of getting this disease in hereditary would be only 20%. So it is not always hereditary in Parkinson's. But there are several other causes of Parkinson's other than heredity. That is genetic. It can be a toxin. Toxins means that if the patient is exposed to organophosphorus chemicals, or if the patient is intoxication or using intoxicants like alcohol or Neperdine or other things, which can also affect the brain. Along with that, if the patient is having a past history of trauma, that is a trauma to the brain, or any surgery, brain surgery related, that if the patient in the past had a tumor or a hemorrhage or other things which can affect the part of the brain which produces a substance known as dopamine. In short, if the dopamine substance, the production is affected by any of the causes, that can lead to Parkinson's. I would just like to take another minute in this. Parkinson's is usually caused by the deficiency of a chemical named by dopamine. Dopamine is produced in the brain by a part of the brain which is known as a nigral system. That is it is a basal ganglia, substantia nigra, and other systems which form this dopamine. It's a neurotransmitter. It is like a chemical in the brain. This chemical in the brain works like a petrol for our muscles and for our nerves. So if the motor car is not you are not filling up the tank with petrol, the car is not going to function. The same way, if the dopamine production is reducing or it is not able to produce the brain, the muscles and this becomes less sensitive. So they start producing tremors, rigidity, slowness, and all other symptoms.
Okay, doctor. And doctor, you also said about the tremors, right? So
Yes.
generally people thinks that if anyone gets tremors, then is it compulsory that they get Parkinson's disease?
Not all tremorlessness leads to Parkinson's, and not all tremorlessness is Parkinson's. Usually, tremors are the onset symptoms of Parkinson's in about 50% of patients. So the patients come to us or the young caretakers of the patient also come. Okay, sir, my father was having Parkinson's, now I am having tremors. But if the tremors are resting tremors, if the tremors reduce by working and there are pin rolling type or the frequency of the tremor is less than 4 per second, which is usually by clinical examination, then these tremors are for Parkinson's. But if the tremors are usually while doing work, these are known as action tremors. Means when you are trying to do something and the tremors increase, or if the tremors are very, very violent, or if the tremors are diffuse, or if the tremors are hereditary, then these are known as intentional tremors or essential tremors, which is not a feature of Parkinson's. So as a general public, if you are having tremors, so that doesn't mean that you will get Parkinson's. But in about 2% of cases of patient having intentional tremors, the disease can progress and lead to Parkinson's at a later onset.
Okay, that's I think very clear. Doctor, is this disease curable?
Parkinson is not curable. By cure means that we are curing the full disease. So Parkinson's disease is not curable. It is controllable. What I mean by controllable, the early diagnosis, the early initiation of management for Parkinson's disease can control the disease and delay the progression of the disease from various stages. So Parkinson's disease is not curable, means there is no drug or no surgery available anywhere in the world which can cure the disease completely, but we can control the symptoms and help the patient lead a functional and productive life throughout his age group.
ओके डॉक्टर पार्किंसंस डिजीज के ट्रीटमेंट ऑप्शंस क्या हो सकते हैं?
In Parkinson's disease, Greshma, we discussed that we have to classify the patient according to the stage. This staging is important to start the treatment management. So the treatment modalities for Parkinson's continues from physiotherapy, from drug management and surgical management. In physiotherapy, initially, that is if the patient comes in stage 1 or 2, we advise the patient to go for good rehabilitation process. Good rehabilitation means yoga, pranayam, meditation, and there are specialists coordinating exercises, balancing exercises and gait training which can help the patient control the symptoms. So in stage 1, we don't prescribe the drug immediately. We ask the patient to go for this, reduce their stress levels and go for physiotherapy. In stage 2 or beyond that, we ask the patient to start drug management. In drug management, there are several groups of drugs, starting from dopamine agonists. Dopamine agonist means the drugs which help the brain to produce more dopamine. Then there are drugs which are known as MAO inhibitors, which again help the production of more and more dopamine in the brain. And then there are drugs which directly supply the dopamine to the brain, which are known as levodopa. So levodopa is a drug which is usually used in patients which directly supplies the raw dopamine into the body, and that is utilized by the brain for the help of Parkinson's patient. So starting from the drugs, number 1 is levodopa. Normally the levodopa initially was used separately, but now it is being used in combination with another drug which is known as carbidopa. That is levodopa plus carbidopa, to prevent the peripheral side effects of this drug. That is, the dopamine is only used in the brain, not in other parts of the body. So it increases the absorption of dopamine into the brain and prevents the peripheral side effects. And levodopa, nowadays it is said, and it has been proven in various research, that early initiation of levodopa with carbidopa prevents the progression of the disease in more than 30% of patients and also helps them to lead a functional and productive life for a longer period of time. Previously, it was thought that early initiation of levodopa would lead to dependency of levodopa to the patient, but it is never like that. Because levodopa on a long-term basis, which is given for more than 5 to 7 years, can cause severe side effects and dependency. But over a period of time, with research, it has been found that early initiation helps the patients. So levodopa with carbidopa is the one major drug. Other drugs which are being used are, which I told is dopa agonists like droperidol, like triaxiphenidine. Also along with that, now newer agents like pramipexole, and also MAO inhibitors like rasagalin, selagine hydrochloride, and now a newer drug also which is a safinamide. The third group of drug is which helps the patient prevent the side effects of levodopa, like amantadine. Along with that, the drugs which are used is apomorphine. Along with that, there are drugs which are used to prevent the side effects. Is a non-selective beta blocker, that is a propranolol. So these are a group of drugs which should be started depending upon the profile of the patient. If the patient is working, he is career oriented, he or she is career oriented, or a housewife, and dependency on her is severe as per the family care, then they should be started early. They should be given minimal doses and then slowly up titrated as per their requirement. So again, coming back, dopamine is used as per the requirement of the patient. Suppose you travel 500 kilometers, so you have to fill the tank twice in a car. The same way. So dopamine requirement would be higher if you are more functional, and the dopamine requirement would be less if you are less functional. So the doses is individual, the titration is individual, and it is decided as per the patient's profile.
Okay.
And the comorbid factors also.
Okay, fine. Doctor, you explained us about, during the different stages, yoga and the physiotherapy helps to, cure the disease. But does really physiotherapy help in this disease?
Yes. There is a great myth that once you are classified that you are suffering from Parkinson, that means it's a death sentence. It's wrong. If you remain mentally, physically, socially more functional, as a neurologist, I ask all my patients not to retire. That is one thing. Not to retire means professionally also, physically also, mentally also, and socially also. Because if you retire and you give up most of your activities, then the brain becomes slow. And already in Parkinson, the brain cells are slow. And if it becomes more slower, it's like a fuel to fire, and it is going to worsen like anything. So the most important thing in Parkinson is to remain active. So if the patient himself or herself cannot remain active, so then we have to take help of physiotherapist. In this, there is a complete rehabilitation package, starting from stress management, starting from yogas and activities. So in activities, we ask our physiotherapy colleagues to help them gain more functional abilities. So physiotherapy helps in management of Parkinson's. It helps in reducing the dose dependency. It helps in management of side effects of the drugs, and also it helps in prevention of progression of the disease, that is from stage 3 to stage 4 and stage 4 to stage 5.
Okay.
So physiotherapy, if it is started in any stage of the patient of Parkinson, right from stage 1 to stage 5, it does help, and it should be advised to all the patients of Parkinson's patients.
Sure, doctor. I think that physiotherapy prevents in the progression of the disease. Now, doctor, my next question is, are there any surgical options for the treatment of Parkinson's disease?
Yes. In what we were discussing, that how this Parkinson's is caused. The Parkinson's is caused because of the deficiency or reduced production or absence of production of dopamine from the brain cells. So in certain parts of the brain, this production is done. So with the help of functional MRI images, we find out where this production is happening, and we locate, and with the placement of several brain chips, that is the brain electrodes, the same way that we do in cardiac pacing. So if the heart doesn't pump properly, we do an artificial pacing of the heart so that heart beats properly, which is known as the pacemaker. The same way we do in the brain, that we do a brain mapping with the help of functional MRI imaging, and then with the precise MRI location, we put a brain electrodes in the brain, which is known as deep brain stimulation, DBS. Now this DBS initially was done only in western part of the western countries, but since about 1990s, it is being started in India also. Initially, it was done in only major cities like Delhi, Chennai, Bangalore, Mumbai, and other centers. But now, with the easy availability of infrastructure and with more and more experienced neurologists coming with this technique, we are doing it in Ahmedabad also. And DBS is being advised to the patients who don't tolerate larger doses of levodopa, who develop side effects with levodopa, and also for those who want more functional life with less side effects and less dependency of the drugs. The only disadvantage of DBS is it's an invasive surgery. That is the only disadvantage, and it is still on a costlier path. It is still not covered with most of the insurance companies. But DBS helps the patients in reducing the dosage of and the dependency on drugs and also the side effect profile and to maintain the functional ability of the particular patient.
That's great, doctor. So, doctor, you already mentioned about the patients being bedridden. It's not exactly the case, but here's my next question is, will a person become completely bedridden with the disease or?
This is the most commonly asked questions to us by the caretakers and by the patient himself. Okay, now doctor, you are telling me it's a Parkinson's. So will I become bedridden? Am I going to die or my life is over? No. Even when you are diagnosed Parkinson's at an early age, suppose I get a patient who has 35 or 40 years and still has 40 years of his life left. These patients are not going to become bedridden if they maintain regular lifestyle, that is a regular life pattern, that is good sleeping habits, good eating habits, regular exercise, good physiotherapy, and regular neurological evaluations from time to time as and when required. That is one. Number two, regular intake of medications. That is the most important thing. In our Indian culture, it is said and it is known problem that if the patient responds to the drug, they try to avoid taking drugs. They think that more pills are going to cause more side effects and they are going to get dependent upon the drugs. It is not a case. If you take regular pills with regular monitoring, it is not going to cause any side effects of the drugs and the patient would be more functional. Number three, from time to time, evaluation is necessary by your neurologist only because he or she would judge, okay, is your stage progressing or not. So he would be in a proper position to add another drug or reduce the drug so that your side effect profile is maintained. Third, lastly, most important thing is if your family support is there. Family support is your family supports you and mentally and physically you are maintaining your stress levels at a bare level, then the drug efficacy increases manifold times. So my direct question to your my answer to your question that is I'm going to become bedridden? No way. But if you follow these rules, then you are not going to become bedridden and you will be mobile and functional to most part of your life.
That's very good, doctor. So if one is diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, then doctor, can he or she lead a normal life and work after getting it?
Yes. Coming back to that, this is another question that I get a professional who is working in an MNC and gets a Parkinson's disease. So the direct next question is, sir, you are prescribing me drug. Will I be able to work with this drug? Yes. Even after taking all anti-Parkinson's drugs, you will be able to work till the time you want to work. Only thing is, again, you have to take the drugs regularly, keep your stress levels at a bare minimum level, avoid taking high proteinous diet with the medication because it is seen that if you take high protein diet along with the medication, mostly the levodopa, it can cause some side effects to most of the patients. And do a regular physiotherapy and rehab program.
Fine. So if a person do all these things, then it's he or she can lead a completely normal life then. So doctor, you talked about the drugs. So does they cause a long-term side effect? Is it true or?
Yes. Most of the professionals and the people who are working, even the doctors who suffer from Parkinson's, their main anxiety and the panic occurs because of the side effect profile of the medicines. Like levodopa. Levodopa is the mainstay. Mainstay means it is like a sanjeevani for a Parkinson's patient. The moment you take levodopa, your symptoms starts reducing and you become more functional. But as I was telling you, after 5 to 7 years of intake of levodopa dependency occurs in the cells. What I mean by dependency, if your cell is not getting that amount of levodopa which that cell requires, that cell is going to react. React in what manner? That the patient may get violent dyskinesias like this. Or mood disorders may happen, or the behavioral abnormalities may happen, or the patient may get hallucinations or delusions. What I mean by hallucination is there's something which is not there, he or she would see. Delusion means he is seeing something, I'm seeing you, Grishma, but I'm thinking you are some other person. So these are known as delusion. And hallucination means you are not sitting in front of me and still I'm perceiving you. Okay, he has come, he was talking to me, and sleep disorders. Okay. So to minimize those side effects or to minimize these side effects, what we ask the patient to do is to take medicine as regular timely intervals. Normally, I make a practice that I ask the patient's functional activity time. If he or she gets up at 7 in the morning, so the first dose of levodopa I usually prescribe after half to 1 hour of his getting up. That is at 8. Then after 4 hours, another 4 hours. So depending upon the functional profile, I give exact timings of that drugs to be taken. Because dopamine should be taken when you want to be functional, not at the bedtime. Suppose you fill the car and then you are going for a trip without the car. So there is the petrol is getting wasted in the car.
Very true.
So the same thing happens in dopamine. So if you are taking dopamine, you should utilize it. If you don't utilize it, you are causing it more side effects.
Okay.
For some reason, if the patient becomes bedridden, so we had to reduce the doses because of, suppose for a fracture or a surgery or a CABG. Then we have to reduce the doses of dopamine so that the side effects of dopamine don't occur. And once the patient becomes again active, we start increasing the dose. So that is the reason I was telling you the patient needs regular follow-up and regular evaluations with the neurologist so that these doses can be adjusted and the side effect cannot happen. Still in 25% of patients, they do get these side effects. And to reduce these side effects, nowadays we have drug therapies like amantadine, like safinamide and other dopa agonists which can be added and reduce the dose of levodopa so the side effect profile can be less.
Oh.
And if those doesn't work, then we can go for surgical options like the deep brain stimulation and other surgeries.
Okay, I think very clear on this part. Doctor, is there any new research going on for this disease
Yes.
to help cure it?
By the World Parkinson's Society and the Indian chapter of World Parkinson's Society, several newer drugs are under a preview in which their new research is going on to find out new treatment modalities for the patient in which the drug dependency is less, the drug side effect is less, and the patients can take drugs for a longer period of time and with lesser side effects. Like in Europe, nowadays the subcutaneous patch of levodopa is available, which is known as Rotigol. In this, they don't have to intake the drug. So the drug is directly absorbed from the skin. Also, in most of the western countries, there is a direct supply of dopamine which is being done by a duodenal pump, in which the drug is ingested into a pump in the stomach and the drug is directly given so that it bypasses the side effect which is happening in the peripheral system of the body. Also, the newer drugs are available in which the dependency on levodopa is becoming less and less. So our main job and research right now is to reduce the side effect profile of the most of the older drugs. Also, several research is going on the genetic level so that we try to cure the genes which are causing the Parkinson's, but still no success has been found.
Okay. I think a lot of work is going on to, prevent this disease and cure this disease. So, doctor, is there any support group for this Parkinson's disease patients?
Yes. Usually in most of the chronic degenerative disorders, we as a doctors try to find out and form a patient group system, support system, in which we enroll the patients of Parkinson's and they form the body. The president, the secretary, the treasurer, all are the patients themselves. And we as doctors help them to increase their knowledge about the disease, to spread the awareness of the disease, and also to decrease the myths about the disease. And this patient support group in turns enrolls newer patients every monthly or every weekly. They do some activities to promote awareness and to spread that this disease is not disabling, but we have to conquer this disease. In Ahmedabad, we have an Ahmedabad chapter of Parkinson's Society of India, which is fully functional, running. Patients can enroll online also. There are several activities which are going on in which they form yoga sessions, physiotherapy sessions, laughter sessions are done. From time to time, experts come from various parts of the country and of the world to deliver lectures about the newer modalities and to spread awareness of newer modalities of the Parkinson's disease also. So the patient support group system is the system for the patients, by the patient, and governed by the patients.
Okay, doctor. So I think it's a wonderful thing, and it was really a wonderful session, doctor, and a lot of awareness you gave us about this disease on this World Parkinson's Day. So I think people should not get panic, and they should do a lot of preventive activities to stop progressing the disease, I think. So, doctor, thank you so much for joining us and educating us about this Parkinson's disease, and thank you, dear audience. We hope most of your common queries related to Parkinson's disease has been clarified. However, if you still have any doubts and wish to seek an appointment with Dr. Jitendra Singh, we are putting in comment section a contact number where you can call and book your appointment. We will see you all once again with many such interesting discussions. And for more updates, don't forget to like, share and subscribe to Epic Hospital's page on Facebook, Instagram and LinkedIn. Thank you, doctor. Thank you, viewers.